Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting informed. You share your sources, and, well, we dig in, pull out the key insights, the surprising bits, and try to make it engaging.
Exactly. No wading through dense texts for you. We do the heavy lifting.
So today we're jumping into a story you provided from the Chūḻapanthaka Vatthu.
Ah, yes, the Vatthu, which is a traditional Buddhist narrative. This one's about a monk, Chūḻapanthaka, or Little Panthaka.
Chūḻapanthaka, right.
It's quite an old story, and it lets us explore, personal struggles, perseverance, and maybe the real art of teaching.
Okay, so our mission for you here is to track the main events in Chūḻapanthaka's life. We're kind of hunting for those unexpected details, maybe some insights relevant to, say, overcoming learning difficulties, or even what wisdom really means.
Sounds good.
I'll guide us through the narrative beats, pointing out things that seem particularly interesting or maybe surprising.
And I'll jump in with some analysis, maybe some broader context, try to add a bit more depth to it all. Ready to unpack this one?
Let's do it. So the story starts with his parents, a woman from a wealthy background.
Right. And she elopes with a servant from her own household. Apparently, she was worried, maybe terrified, of how her parents would react.
Understandably so, I suppose, given the context.
Yeah, so this fear pushes them to leave home. And while they're traveling, away from everything familiar, they have two sons.
Mahāpanthaka, great Panthaka.
And then Chūḻapanthaka, Little Panthaka. Their names actually come from being born on the road. Pantha means road.
Ah, okay. So eventually they circle back towards their hometown.
They do. And the kids naturally start asking questions.
Yeah.
Who are our grandparents? Do we have other family? You know how kids are.
But the mother, she's still hesitant.
Deeply hesitant. Still carrying that shame, it seems. Really reluctant to face her parents after all this time.
And her fears weren't unfounded, were they?
No, not at all. The grandparents' reaction is, well, it's harsh. They refuse point blank to see the parents. Just won't have them.
Wow. But they agree to take the children.
Yes, they agree to raise the boys. So right there you have this major separation, this early hardship baked into the brothers' lives. A pretty tough start.
Definitely sets a somber tone early on. Okay, moving forward in their lives. Mahāpanthaka, the older brother.
He gets really drawn to the Buddhist teachings. Very keen. He eventually ordains as a monk.
And he does well.
Exceptionally well. Becomes very learned, studies diligently, and actually attains arahantship.
Which is, remind us.
Arahantship is the state of full enlightenment in Theravada Buddhism. Liberation from the cycle of suffering. A very high spiritual achievement.
Got it. So Mahāpanthaka reaches this high state, and then he thinks of his younger brother, Chūḻapanthaka.
Yes, the text says out of compassion. He decides to ordain his younger brother too. Wants him to have the same opportunity, presumably.
Seems like a kind gesture.
On the surface, yes. But this is where things get really, really challenging for Chūḻapanthaka.
How so?
Well, he struggles massively with learning. The story specifically says he couldn't memorize even a single verse, just one verse, in 4 entire months.
4 months? Wow. That really highlights the scale of his difficulty, doesn't it? It's not just slow learning, it's something profound.
Exactly. It sets up this incredible contrast with his highly accomplished older brother.
And how does Mahāpanthaka react to this? His compassion seems limited.
Yeah. It seems that way. He gets frustrated, extremely frustrated. And he ends up dismissing Chūḻapanthaka from the monastery.
Dismissing him, just tells him to leave.
Pretty much. Tells him he's just not cut out for the religious life, that he can't progress. It's quite a harsh rejection.
That must have been devastating for Chūḻapanthaka, especially if he was devoted.
You'd have to imagine so.
Yeah.
A real low point.
It raises questions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About Mahāpanthaka's initial compassion. Was it pure or tied to expectations of success?
That's a really sharp point. Makes you think. So Chūḻapanthaka is heartbroken, told he's not good enough, but he doesn't want to just give up on the whole thing. No, despite the rejection, his faith or devotion seems to remain. He's reluctant to just go back to being a regular layperson. And this is where the narrative pivots, really.
Because the Buddha gets involved.
Precisely. The Buddha, through his heightened awareness, his insight, becomes aware of what's happening with Chūḻapanthaka. He sees this monk's despair.
And he steps in.
He does, directly. With immense compassion, it seems. He meets Chūḻapanthaka just as he's about to leave the monastery grounds, feeling completely defeated.
And takes him under his wing, so to speak.
Exactly. Takes him under his personal guidance And the contrast in teaching style is immediate and striking, isn't it? Compared to Mahāpanthaka just trying to drill verses.
Yeah, it really is. The Buddha doesn't force him to memorize more, does he?
Not at all. He does something completely different, unexpected even.
Mm.
He gives Chūḻapanthaka a piece of clean white cloth.
Just a cloth.
It's a simple cloth.
Oh.
And tells him to sit, face the sun, and rub this cloth continuously.
While reciting something.
Yes, while repeating the phrase, Rajoharanam, Rajoharameng.
Which means,
Taking away impurity, taking away impurity.
okay, so rub a cloth and repeat, taking away impurity. It sounds almost mundane compared to studying complex teaching.
It does, doesn't it? But that's the genius of it, perhaps. Recognizing what this specific individual needed at this specific moment. It wasn't about intellectual memorization for him.
So Chūḻapanthaka follows the instructions.
Diligently, he sits and rubs the cloth, repeating the phrase. And, well, what happens when you rub a white cloth for a long time?
It gets dirty, soiled.
Exactly. And seeing the cloth become stained, marked by the rubbing. This sparks something in him. He starts reflecting.
On the cloth itself.
On the process. How something clean becomes dirty. It leads him to contemplate impermanence, the nature of change, and then defilement.
Ah, so the physical dirt on the cloth becomes a metaphor?
Precisely. A tangible object lesson for understanding inner impurities, the defilements of the mind like greed, hatred, delusion, the things that stain consciousness.
And the Buddha guides this reflection.
Yes. Sensing his readiness, the Buddha projects an image of himself and offers a verse, essentially saying the real dust isn't external dirt, but these inner things, passion, hatred, delusion. Remove that dust.
Okay, so the simple task plus this targeted guidance
leads to the breakthrough. And it's not just a small step. It's described as sudden, complete enlightenment. Arahantship.
Just like that. From struggling with one verse to full enlightenment.
Just like that. And not just arahantship. The text says he also gained mastery of the entire Buddhist canon, the Tipiṭaka, and the 4 analytical knowledges, the Patisamphida. Instantaneously.
That's incredible. The ultimate aha moment. A total transformation, completely unexpected given his history.
It really challenges our assumptions about learning, potential, and how wisdom can arise, doesn't it? It suggests intellect isn't the only pathway.
Absolutely. So his struggles are over, he's enlightened, but the story doesn't end there.
No. There's a fascinating follow-up that kind of proves his attainment to everyone else.
Right. There's this physician, Jivaka Kamarapapa.
A prominent figure. He invites the Buddha and a large group of monks, like hundreds of them, for a meal offering, a dana.
Okay, a big event.
A very big event. And Mahāpanthaka, the older brother, he's still involved in organizing the monks.
And he still doubts Chūḻapanthaka, even after all this.
Apparently so. Or at least he thinks Chūḻapanthaka might still be too slow or incapable. He actually tries to exclude him from the count, tries to prevent him from attending the meal.
Seriously. Old habits die hard, I guess.
It really seems that way.
Yeah.
It shows how persistent those initial judgments can be, even when faced with evidence to the contrary.
How does Chūḻapanthaka react this time?
He feels dejected again, naturally. But this time, the Buddha is fully aware and supportive. He knows what Chūḻapanthaka is now capable of.
And then something miraculous happens.
You could say that. Chūḻapanthaka, using the abilities that came with his enlightenment, his spiritual powers, creates thousands of identical replicas of himself.
Thousands.
Thousands. They fill Jivaka's entire mango grove, where the meal is supposed to take place, all looking exactly like Chūḻapanthaka.
Okay, that's quite a display. Talk about exceeding expectations.
It's a dramatic demonstration, isn't it? A powerful way to show the immense potential that was hidden beneath the surface, unlocked by that unique practice.
So Jivaka arrives to offer the meal, sees this huge crowd of identical monks. What happens then?
He's probably quite bewildered. But the Buddha simply tells Jivaka's attendant to take the main alms bowl and announce that it's for Chūḻapanthaka. And from amidst those thousands of identical forms, one hand reaches out. A single Chūḻapanthaka reveals himself, his true self amidst the manifestations.
Wow. That must have silenced any doubters.
You'd think so. It's a clear sign of his mastery and attainment. No more hiding, no more being overlooked.
And the final piece, does he speak?
He does. After the meal, Chūḻapanthaka is asked to give the Anumadana, the traditional discourse of appreciation and blessing.
And how does he do? The monk who couldn't memorize a verse?
He delivers a teaching described as powerful, comprehensive, like a lion's roar, It completely astounds everyone there, including, one assumes, his brother Mahāpanthaka.
A complete turnaround, full validation.
Absolutely. It resolves that initial conflict and proves the depth of his transformation and understanding.
Now, the text also mentions something about a past life, briefly.
Yes, it touches on it. Apparently, in a previous existence, Chūḻapanthaka had been a king, and one day wiping sweat from his brow with a clean cloth.
He noticed it becoming soiled.
Exactly. And that simple observation led him to reflect on impermanence, planting a seed, you could say.
So that might explain why the cloth meditation works so well for him this time around. An echo from the past.
That's the implication. This idea of karmic continuity, past experiences influencing present affinities, is pretty common in Buddhist thought. It suggests why that specific method resonated so deeply.
Interesting. Okay, so the story kind of culminates with the Buddha giving a final teaching prompted by all this.
Right. The other monks are buzzing, talking about Chūḻapanthaka's amazing journey, and the Buddha uses the opportunity to deliver a key teaching encapsulated in a verse.
What's the gist of the verse?
It emphasizes effort, mindfulness, purity of conduct, self-control, and discipline. These qualities, he says, allow a wise person to create an island.
An island.
Metaphorically speaking. An island that cannot be overwhelmed by the flood.
And the flood represents?
The flood represents the defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, attachment, all the things that keep us caught in suffering. The island is a arahantship, that state of security and liberation that the floodwaters of defilement can no longer reach or destroy.
So it's about building inner resilience through practice.
Precisely. Effort, awareness, ethical conduct, controlling the senses. These are the tools to build that refuge, that island of wisdom, in the midst of life's challenges.
And this final teaching had a positive effect.
Yes. The text says many in the assembly who heard it gained various levels of spiritual insight themselves. It was clearly impactful.
So wrapping this up, what are the really crucial takeaways from Chūḻapanthaka's story for you when you boil it down?
Well, a few things really stand out. First, definitely the power of perseverance. Facing huge learning difficulties, yet not giving up completely. That's huge.
Yeah, that persistence is key.
Second, the effectiveness of tailored teaching. What works for one person might not work for another. The Buddha's specific, unconventional method was perfect for Chūḻapanthaka.
That adaptability seems vital, and for me it really highlights the Buddha's incredible compassion and wisdom. He saw the potential where even the monk's own brother couldn't. He didn't write him off.
No, he didn't. It speaks volumes about seeing beyond surface struggles. And those aha moments, the sudden enlightenment, the unexpected display of powers, they're just so striking. They remind you that transformation can happen in profound and surprising ways.
It really does. So connecting this back to you, the listener, the story emphasizes that even if you face obstacles that seem insurmountable, real progress and deep understanding are possible. Maybe not always through conventional means, but with the right guidance, the right approach, and persistent effort.
Exactly. It challenges our fixed ideas about potential. Chūḻapanthaka's story flips the script on who we might think is capable.
Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to chew on. How often do we judge people's potential based on their initial performance or how they seem to learn? Could we be overlooking hidden capacities?
And what kinds of unconventional methods might unlock abilities, maybe in ourselves or in others, that we haven't even considered?
It definitely makes you reconsider what intelligence really is, and that wisdom can truly blossom along many different paths. Thanks for diving deep with us today.